Here with Chris, and we are going to talk here kind of a little podcast style about the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, settlement that most of you have probably at least heard about. It's been in the news quite a bit over the last 10 days or so. So a little background, this lawsuit actually was filed a few years ago, and a consumer group filed a complaint against the National Association of Realtors and a bunch of big brokers that they were essentially price fixing with commissions. And we got to the point where there was a jury trial. The jury sided with the plaintiff, and the NAR and these companies were struck with a fine of a few $1 billion. So NAR has been working on settling this, coming to an end, and DOJ really pushed on the commission structure. So the reality of what has happened in this settlement that came out March 15th is there will no longer be buyer agent commissions offered through the MLS. For the last 30 years or so, if you sold a house, 99% of the time, you are putting a percentage in the MLS that goes to the agent that works with the buyer, and that becomes a guaranteed commission. That's what this lawsuit is really about. It's that process of a guaranteed commission through MLS is going away, and the expectations is that's going to be implemented roughly mid-July. Chris, that's kind of the bottom line, right? Do you feel like I missed anything there?
No, I think you nailed it pretty well. I think the word the DOJ has used is the decoupling of commissions, right? So I think for the consumer, that means at least the broad idea is sellers, you're going to pay your agent, and buyers, you're going to pay your agent. How that actually is going to shake out in practice, though, I think is where there are some questions at the moment. And I think it's equally important to look at what the settlement is not versus what it is, because we all know the media, whichever side of the political spectrum you are on, the media loves to create wild clickbait headlines, and they've certainly done a great job with it here. So I just want to touch on a few things as what this is not. The settlement has nothing to do with the amount of compensation brokers or agents charge. I've seen, headlines on CNN, the end of the 6%, maybe not, but there is nothing in this lawsuit that deals with the amount of compensation brokers charge. It's the way that compensation is structured. I've seen another headline: settlement will, for the first time, allow sellers not to pay a buyer's agent. False. Commissions have always been completely negotiable on both the sell and buy side. Sellers have never had to pay a buyer's agent. Now, the reality is the vast majority of them do, because they realize the power that has in, frankly, marketing and bringing buyers to their properties. We've taken a number of listings ourselves in the past couple of weeks and explained this lawsuit to people, and everyone still wants to put the commission out there for a buyer's agent because they understand the power that has in helping sell their home. I've seen things saying it prohibits sellers from paying a buyer's agent. We just touched on that. That's false. It's all negotiable. And the last one, and this might be a bit more interesting or meaningful to most consumers, is I've seen ones talking about how this is going to, favorably impact real estate prices as far as the consumer goes. Guys, the real estate market is like any other market. It's driven by major market forces, supply and demand. Again, there is nothing in this lawsuit that deals with the amount of commission. It's rather just the way it's structured. This is not, I would love it if it would, but this is not going to have an impact on real estate prices for the end consumer. It's just not.
Yeah, for sure. And, I find it a little ironic that the DOJ is touting this as some huge win for consumers, that, real estate commissions have been inflated for decades and now they're going to come down. Yet the attorneys that filed this lawsuit are getting paid $80 million.
Right. The average consumer who's part of this lawsuit is going to get $10. So,
right.
Who's the winner?
Really about DOJ. But I digress. It doesn't really matter what we think of that. We work in the industry. We're going to continue to work in the industry. So let's kind of look forward to what we see coming because of this. So as mentioned, the field in the MLS right now that offers compensation is going away. Likely that's going to start in mid-July. So let's talk about, what does this mean for the seller? In reality, I don't think it changes a whole lot for sellers. In practice, you're now going to just negotiate the commission with your listing agent, which you always have done. but there's not going to be that direct kind of pre-negotiation of, hey, here's what I'm willing to offer to the buyer's agent. More than likely, what I'm predicting is that offers will start coming in asking for that commission. Another kind of strange wrinkle in this is it's strictly the MLS. It has nothing to do with general advertising. And what I mean by that is if we list a property in July, it can't say 2.7% to the buyer's agent in MLS, but it can say that in Zillow.
Yeah, right.
So again, this whole thing is more semantics than anything. So in general, I don't think it's going to affect sellers a lot. You might start seeing more buyers, make offers without agents.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been doing this 16 years. Chris, you're on what, 5 now? Buyers see the value in having an agent. It's just like if you need something done legally, you hire an attorney, you want to make sure it's done right. Most people, the house is the most expensive thing they'll ever buy. They
Yeah.
want a professional to guide them through the process. So I don't see this as this huge watershed. All of a sudden, there's not going to be buyer agents out there anymore.
No, I agree with all that. I think the bigger change will probably be on the buy side. And I think, I think the piece of good news I think most we can probably take home as consumers is I think this will professionalize the industry. A lot of you guys watching this video, Trevor and I focus, we are listing agents. Probably literally, Trevor, what, 95% of our transactions are representing the seller, our list side. And when we go in, we've done it with some of you guys. We have to sit down with you, talk about our fees, talk about why you would hire us. What is our value proposition? We have to make a case for you to do business with us. Not always, but the buy side, just in my experience, and Trevor, you can chime in, has always been a bit more relaxed. Hey, I got a buddy who's an agent. I'm looking to buy a house. And, there's no formal interview process for buyers agents. A lot of the time, and I think a lot of the time is because buyers aren't paying for it, right? The seller was always paying for it. So I think going forward, buyers agents are going to have to be able to articulate their value to their clients more. They're going to be in a situation where they have to potentially negotiate their fee, because I do think there are going to be cases now where buyers agents pay their buyers for the reasons you said. This is a very litigious environment. It's the biggest purchase most people are going to make. I do think the consumer is going to still want to make sure they get that $800,000 purchase done correctly. So we're going to see more professional buyers agents. I think this will call the agent herd. I think it will knock a lot of the part-timers and weekenders out, because it's just going to be, frankly, too difficult to compete with professional full-time agents. I think that's largely what we'll see on the buy side. There's always been, more options. There's always been discount brokers. There's always a cheaper way to do things. So a lot of this isn't new. It's what Trevor said. It's semantics. It's moving things from one pile to the other. But we're not shattering the way commissions have been done in real estate.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think we both agree that overall this is actually a positive thing for real estate. The reason the lawsuit came up is certain percentage of brokers and agents were just not being fully transparent. So I think that's good. Buyers agents are going to have to be better. But in practice, again, a lot of this is semantics, and time will tell. We'll see. I mean, look, in Australia and in Europe, the buyer's agent's role is very limited compared to how it has been here traditionally in the US. So perhaps we will kind of eventually come to that model. But for at least the next year or two, things aren't going to be drastically different other than the paperwork. But of course, if you have more questions about this, or if this is important to you, give us a call, shoot us an email. I mean, we're here to help in any way we can. Always happy to talk to you. But we just wanted to kind of put this message out to let you know that, one, we're definitely on top of this, and we're here for you to answer your questions if you have any on this subject.
Yep. Everything Trevor just said. And, I do think it's important to be honest too. There are a lot of unanswered questions at the moment. Agents, brokers, the biggest brokers in the country, have questions at the moment that need answers. So things will get figured out over the next couple months. And I think most of us think this will really take more like a year or two to really sink in and change the industry in a meaningful way. But in the meantime, as Trevor said, we just wanted to get in front of you guys, share some thoughts on this. We're going to include a link to an article in the email where we sent you this video. And if you guys have other questions, by all means, please reach out.
All right. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon.